What's going on, people? On to number 2 out of 4. So we're getting there. Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. Down there, there's the side of the box for people that care to see that, right? Now, moving on past that, here's the thing, right? These, much like everything else here, fairly old, so I don't think I'm going to get too deep into it. It's not even a whole lot to say, honestly. So this should be on the shorter end of the spectrum when it comes to reviews, but we'll see how it all plays out, right? So, what is this thing called? Right, yeah. This right here, the Nike ReactX Infinity Run 3 in the Volt colorway. I'm going to say it right now. I have other Volt shoes. These looked Volt in the picture. They don't look so Volt in person, though. I don't know, it's weird. Whatever, let's get on into it. Starting with the bottom. Down there, what are you looking at? Very similar outsole to the last shoe that I just showed you, right? If you are watching these videos in order, you know what I'm talking about. If not, hey, it happens. Don't worry about it. Keep your life moving on. Moving on up here, midsole and whatnot, right? That, nothing crazy about it. I like the coloring, right? It's slightly different shades of the green or whatever, but the bulk of it is pretty alright. I'll give it that, right? Otherwise, pretty plain. Switching around quick over to the inside, though, of the midsole, there you do have that little pinwheel logo that usually means that these are some high amount of recyclability or something behind them. You know, sustainability for the planet, that whole thing, right? So if you get a pair of these, know that you're helping the planet, I guess. You yourself could be like a planeteer of sorts. Remember that whole thing? Yeah. So, moving on up here, giving you some pictures and whatnot so you can see what all is going on with these shoes. Yeah, it's kind of a weird look, right? At least to me, with all the way they did the stuff here. Other colors, maybe this like goes over better as far as just like this overall design, but we're not talking about the other shoes right now, the other colors, are we? We're talking about these right here, so this is what matters. But anyways, stepping on past that and getting on into like some of the details, I guess. I'll give you some shots in here real close so you can kind of see what I was talking about with the whole look of this thing. It's just not something I'm a huge fan of. But one thing that is kind of cool, and you can't really tell by looking at it, but they did put some sort of like extra membrane over this Flyknit material. So that's supposed to make it a little bit more water resistant than it may appear. Because right now it looks like anything that you drop on these, like rain or whatever, is just going to go right through. Which, I can tell you a story about that the other day, or from the other day, but not right now. And another thing that you'll notice in here, they did retool the midfoot section to give you like an extra support band in there, so that way your foot feels a little bit more secure in here, so that's cool. And otherwise, for the bulk of it, everything else is the same. One thing I will hit you with real quick right now is the inside of here, because there's not a whole lot else to say. And even in there, it's going to be quick because there's not a whole lot to show, right? So that's it. Laces wise and front wise, all that stuff, like you probably noticed from the other pictures, like same as I said, not a lot going on. But I guess that is it, right? Yeah, like I said, shouldn't be too quick or shouldn't be too long because there's not a whole lot happening here. Now, we're going to jump into the personal thoughts piece. I'll cover something that I meant to mention earlier probably, and then we'll move on from that. Personally, these are looking pretty okay. I do like a lot of the things that they have going on here, right? I mean, I like the Volt overall. This just isn't my favorite representation of it. I don't know, it looks more like if you just took like a yellow highlighter and just colored over a white shoe. That's what this is. I have other Volt things, but you know, I'm not going to get on that right now. But as far as like these go compared to the first version that I had, like the React Infinity Run Flyknit, the first one, they're similar enough that I think this will go over pretty well. I just ran in the older pair a few days ago and they felt really good still. So I assume that these will feel even better because again, we're 3 versions later, a lot of improvements and whatnot. One thing that they did improve in here from the sustainability side with the Zoom X thing, or excuse me, with the ReactX thing, they got better foam in here. So instead of being like the previous years where it was, you know, not all that great, they've re-engineered everything. And now it's supposed to be super good for comfort and super good for just being cheap to make and not leaving a big carbon footprint. So best of both worlds for everybody, right? Which is pretty cool, but you know, whatever. So I think past that, there's not really much else left to say personal thoughts wise. There are a lot of colors of these. I think they're all on sale right now on Nike.com specifically, where I bought all of these. So you can head on over there and see what's going on with that. It's doing that whole like, oh, check out the price in cart. It's like, why don't you just put it on the webpage? Like, well, what are you doing out here, people? So anyways, sizing. Let's go ahead and talk about that so we can wrap this thing up, huh? I bought these in a 9.5. Actually, you know what? I didn't. I did buy these in a 9.5 initially, and it fit terribly. So I ended up going up to a 10, right? Went up a half size, things were better. Off that same subject though, like I said in the previous video, wearing these with my standard socks, size 10, it's okay, right? I got no complaints. But wearing these with my actual like running socks or whatever, like compression style ones, if I don't have a link in the description, remind me and I'll put it in there. Wearing them with those feels a lot better. But the crazy thing is like these at a 10 and those Invincible 3s at a 9.5, these feel like they have less room in them than those. They're still fine at that size, the whole half size up thing, but just know this. These, when Nike said that they run small, they meant it. Sometimes they just say that and I don't believe it. This time, yeah, it actually was a bit small. Past that though, walking around in these, they don't have that same bouncy, cushiony stuff going on in them. Like, they're still nice and soft, don't get me wrong, just compared to the Invincible 3. So I would prefer, personally, to walk around in these for the day, just because it doesn't feel so bouncy. That's just a personal thing, right? You wear enough shoes, you start to build up your own little preferences. That may not be the same for you, I get that. But I'm just putting it out there, right, as a thing that, hey, not everything's for everybody, so try both things or whatever. But past that, like, once I get these and run in them or whatever, they do seem like they're going to be very similar to the first pair that I have. So I expect good things. I just don't know when I'll find that out and be able to give you guys some sort of update. But hopefully in the next week or so, that would be ideal. But past that, breathability is good. All that stuff, you know, it's Flyknit, so it's going to feel pretty nice on the feet. I've got no complaints about them so far, and I don't think I will have any complaints about them later. So things are looking pretty good, right? And at only $160, I think it is. Not a terrible price, right? Especially once those sales start kicking in, which again are happening right now. And I'm sure there's sales on these same models from other sites too, right? They usually all compete. But I think that's enough out of me. So I'm going to wrap this thing up. From me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'm going to move on, talk about some Pegasus Trail 5s, I guess it is. Yeah, 5. Man, they've been doing this for a bit. Gonna do that. Later, people.